that I ever doubted that police officers have a hard job, but that really drove home the sort of instantaneous life and death decision making that has to happen on a regular basis. And it was definitely interesting. I do think that they should allow more civilians to go through that process.
Yeah, it would be interesting if you could add that as a component of CCW. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh yeah.
where there needs to be no shoots. And I tell people when I've done scenario based training, I don't remember any of the targets, any of the shoot targets I've ever hit. I don't. But I remember every single no shoot target that I ever hit. And each one I can remember exactly how it happened. And I think that really ingrains it into the psyche as you move on through your training.
I agree. I agree. I'd love to do that again. I'm not sure I would do any better, but now knowing what I know now, I feel like I would have a slightly better chance of shooting the right people, but I'm not sure. Again, I don't think I'm ready for the police force. Let me just say that.
Right.
I aged out. I'm good.
I was going to ask you, is there any training that you really want to do or try and want to do?
I like to try and do some force on force training, even though I it doesn't appeal to me at all. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I don't like being hit. I don't like being touched. I don't like being, potentially punched in the face. I don't like any of those things. But I think that is the most realistic form of training for the situations that I carry my concealed carry weapon for. I mean,
Right.
it's not like I'm going to be clearing a building with my weapon like in the scenario based training that I did, but the chances of someone attacking me
Right.
are far more likely than me having to go from room to room and clear a building. So I don't want to do it, but I feel like I should do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, have you ever done force on force training
Mm-mm.
before?
I've had the opportunity and I've always chickened out. I'm not gonna lie. I have always said, like, yeah, I'll do that eventually, but
Yeah,
realistically, I know I need to do it, but it just does not sound fun at all.
I I've recently just wrote an article. It's kind of waiting on being published. That force on force really kind of puts everything together because now you're adding the marksmanship component from the range, along with the shoot and no shoot targets. Now adding a human brain working against you, and I tell people all the time, find force on force where it's highly scripted. It's
Right.
the goal. It's not a paintball melee. It is a highly scripted event that is one that's highly controlled, where you're trying to get a specific outcome. There
Well,
are force on
can you explain a force on force scenario, how that works out? Because I have a vague idea, but I know maybe your audience doesn't.
so a force on force scenario is a scripted event. So maybe you get briefed at the start of it. You're going to your kid's daycare and you can hear a commotion from down the hall, or you just walked into a 7-Eleven and you see a person who looks at the corner a little shady, and then you have your brain has to take in all that input, and then you have to kind of develop a course of action. Now there are force on force scenarios where you don't fire a single round because that may be the real world where your decision making has eliminated the need for putting a gun in play or shooting a threat, things like that. So it's a very specific kind of story, if you will, designed to elicit a certain outcome. And the outcomes are kind of based on what's your decision making. If you do this, the actor who is the threat in the force on force scenario
Mhm.
is key to do something else. If you start giving commands and then maybe he just gives up and things like that. So it's a very specific scripted event to, designed to elicit specific outcomes, not we're capturing the flag and we're going to spend as many paintballs as we
Yeah.
can. It's
By the
very
way,
it's a
yeah,
very
I
different.
hate paintball too. Okay. I hate paintball because those stupid things hurt. They leave giant bruises. No one tells you that the first time you go to play paintball. They're like, oh, yeah, you're going to look like a spotted leopard by the time this whole thing's over because you're going to have bruises all over your body. Nobody tells you that.
And there's no round accountability in paintball. You keep sending them when people keep sticking their heads out. So
Yeah.
you're you're right on that. So um, we'll get into some more lighter stuff. What is your favorite gun you have right now to shoot and kind of that you're enjoying right now getting to the range with?
I'll tell you the God's honest truth. I would much rather shoot a shotgun than any other kind of gun. You're forgiving, right? Like you can
Right,
kind of be in the general direction and
right.
hit something. You don't have to be a perfect marksman, but I have a 28 gauge 410 over under combo that I absolutely love this gun. It is so much fun to go to a sporting clays range and shoot because you don't have the same kind of distance ability as you would have with a larger gauge shotgun. So you really have to jump on the birds as soon as they come out.
Right.
And I can shoot it all day. It weighs nothing. It's almost like shooting a cap gun. I mean, it has no kick. It is just the most fun to shoot. The problem is getting ammunition for it is sometimes really challenging. And when my dad
Yeah.
passed away, I got his shotgun shell reloader, but it's in a million pieces and I haven't put it back together. And frankly, I reloaded a gazillion shotgun shells when I was a kid, and I just don't relish doing it again. That's one of those things that I think when I retire, I'll probably do that. Like I'll
Right.
reload shotgun shells when I retire. But now it's as expensive to buy all the parts to reload shotgun shells
Yeah.
as you just buy shotgun shells. So, let somebody else do the work.
Right. It's much easier to buy them off the shelf than it is
Oh
to
yeah.
spend your
Yeah.
Saturday doing it. And it's once you get a system, it's pretty good, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
It takes some trial and error. It takes some good stuff. What if you don't mind me asking, what is your carry gun that you like to carry off duty or not off duty, but out in public and when
For
you're
a long
off
time,
being
I
Mandy?
carried a 38 revolver, which I still love. It's a Smith and Wesson, and it is just a phenomenal, perfect weight for my hand. I can shoot it from the hip and still get a tight grouping on the chest. So it's just a wonderful weapon, but it only has 6 rounds.
Yep.
So recently, I bought a Glock 43X, which is
Mm.
also perfect for my hand. Great, great, great gun. But I have not shot that nearly as much as I've shot the 38. So I still love my revolver. And I bought the revolver because I went I went to a gun store and I said, what can I shoot out of my purse? Like what can I actually fire out of my purse through my purse? So at least I can get a shock and awe kind of thing going on when the guy realizes I have an exploding purse, right? And they said you
The
don't
old
want something that can jam. So you want a
right.
revolver. And I bought this revolver so I could shoot it through my purse because at the time I was like, I'll just carry in my purse because I didn't know any better. And it's been a great weapon. It's a great, great gun, and I can shoot it really, really, really well. My husband has
Yep.
made sure of that. When we go to the range, he's like, okay, now pick it up and shoot it from your hip. Okay, now, and he's one of those guys that's always doing like my little simulated situations to make
Yeah.
sure that I can do that. But the Glock 43X, I really, really just enjoy shooting that. It's very
Yeah.
manageable. That is a weapon that I've recommended to other women
Yep.
because it's large enough to do damage, right? You don't want to, like, if you're shooting a 22, there's a chance that someone whacked on drugs will not be slowed down by that.
Right.
It just is. And so this weapon is a great size and it's a great weight and it doesn't have a lot of recoil. So it's just a really nice handgun. So that's kind of one that I've directed some other women to.
Yeah, and those are recent additions to the Glock family,
Mm-hmm.
the single stacked grip.
Yep.
Um, and they are a great gun. And like you said, for hand size and
Yep.
for all of that, they work really, really well. It's one of I have a Glock 48 and it's one of my uh out in public carries and it's again it's just easy to conceal. It works. I had one where I was able to put a red dot on it.
Oh, wow.
So
Oh,
so
very
yeah,
nice. Do
so
you think that's cheating? Do you think the red dot's cheating? Is it?
um I was going to ask you, have you done much experimentation with the red dots?
I have not, but I'd like to. I mean, I have shotguns with a red light. I know how much easier it is to make sure you hit your target. But there's something in me. Maybe it's going back to my dad's sense of sporting, like like it's just not sporting to put the red dot right exactly where you want it.
Right.
But I'm thinking that in a situation with a carry weapon, you probably want to make sure that you're going to hit what you're going to hit.
They are. You ask if they're cheating. They're not. They don't. I guess people think that the dot is going to fix the problems that they have as a shooter, and
Right.
that is not true. And actually, um, in our last podcast, I was talking with my friend Jason, and he talks about how when he put one on his gun, the sights were right there. It was always there. The dot was always there. And you could just look right at the target and then the dot presented itself right there. Because now you no longer look at your front sight. Now you stare at the target and let the dot kind of superimpose itself in it.
Right.
So he was tell the story about how he was so used to having to focus on that front sight, see the target, and then shift my focus to the front sight, and then do all the mechanics of making the gun go bang. He's like, well, I was just seeing it done. It was so easy. So I was just hammering on the trigger. So smashing rounds off the target because I had to walk back that and just realize, yeah, just because the dot's there, I still have to do all the mechanics and
Right.
fundamentals correct that made the gun hit the target where I wanted to in the first place.
Right.
So they're they're really cool. We're in the baby of pistol mounted optics. Um, like you talked about your husband being in the military. You could probably talk about his start of his career, and it was M16 with a carry handle with an A2 sight, and you go to today's army, you won't find a single rifle that doesn't have an optic on it now. So I think we're in the same way of pistol mounted optics.
Well, when Chuck was in the military and he got out like in 96, I think. So it's been a while. It's been a hot minute. He was part of the tactical team that tested out new weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So he got to see a lot of this stuff that was coming down the pike before it came down the pike. And now it's all just like, as you said, it's just ubiquitous on all the sort of gear that the guys have. But it's, anything that makes them more accurate, I'm for. you know,
Right,
just
right.
the red dot thing. It's like, I wonder if that's going to be one of those things that they try to legislate because it does make you more accurate.
Yeah, I I'll be curious to see how it does industry wide, if it lessens the rounds with fire or and things like that, because you actually get to see the target. And all these kids who have grown up doing video games, they've all had this. And dots on guns have been part of the military, as Chuck probably has known for years. We just us normal folk just didn't know
Right.
about them yet. But they are really really cool and really really allow you to keep your focus where it needs to be, down towards the threat for sure.
Well, I'm open to that. Anything that makes me more accurate would be good because
Right.
in case.
It doesn't fix the crazy nut behind the wheel of the airplane. It just helps point it in the right direction. So I was gonna ask you one more question, and then we'll go in. What do you think about youth and shooting sports? I know you have a wide range of kids ages. What's your experience with that, and
Well, I
how
mean,
important do you think that is?
as I said, growing up when I was a kid, it was such a just it was there. Everybody I know hunted. Everybody I know owned guns. Everyone I knew because that was the people that we were around in a rural area. And I'd like to point out, no one ever came and shot up my high school. No one ever glorified guns like we see now. No kids were ever posting pictures of themselves with their guns sideways or whatever, trying to look cool because they were just a part of our community. And I think that in trying to remove any sort of training or access to guns from children, you have created a really perverse incentive for kids to want them. They want to be able to show how kind of badass they are or whatever, instead of having the sort of upbringing that I did, where it was you always had respect for a weapon, you always walked with your gun downrange, you always walked with your shotgun open, all of these basic things that were just a part of the situation from the get-go. They deglamorized it. Everybody has a gun safe now, right? We've all got a gun
Right.
safe, 40 locks, and they weigh 1,000 pounds. And you have to like have an eyeball scan to get in there to make sure that kids don't have access to guns. In our household, my dad had an unlocked cabinet full of guns. Unlocked, right? And
Right.
but the thing was, we knew that if we touched my dad's guns, he would take us out of this world. Like we didn't have to.
That's right.
So there was no playing with firearms. There was no playing with guns because we had a clear understanding of what they were used for,
Yeah.
how powerful they were, and the mystery was long gone. Now,
Yeah.
all that being said, I have done a lousy job with my 14-year-old daughter. She has never fired a weapon. And
What?
I know, but it's one of those things where you think, well, we'll wait a little bit longer. And now,
Right.
now she's actually expressed some interest though. So
Right.
that was kind of what I was waiting for. My older sister never loved shooting because I think she's kind of like a gun dog that got gun scared. He took her too soon.
Yeah.
And it was too much and it was overwhelming. And so she does not enjoy shooting at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to kind of wait until my daughter was old enough to make a decision. But I think after this, I'm going to have to take her to the range and at least give her the basic experience of firing a weapon. I could see her doing it a couple times